Hello everybody, this is Mr. Laubach. In this video I want to go over the Creating the Constitution video worksheet. This is from the Annenberg video that we watched in class. So before we go over this, some important stuff. The original purpose of the Constitutional Convention in 1787 in Philadelphia was to change or improve the Articles of Confederation. At the convention, the delegates, or the framers, the delegates are referred to as the framers, decided to scrap the Articles of Confederation and write a new constitution. So here is the worksheet, and the answers are in maroon. These answers that you see on this sheet and that I will talk about, they are not the only possible answer. They are just the ones that I put down from the video. So the first question, what were the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation? Now we know there were a lot of weaknesses. There were some strengths, but weaknesses, there was no power to tax. In order for the national government to get money, they had to ask the states to give them money, and they had no way to require states to give them money in the form of tax revenue. Under the Articles, there was no really good way to put down an insurrection. A great example of this is Shays' Rebellion, which is detailed in the video. There's no executive power, so there's no president and there's no executive branch. The spirit of a confederation, of course, is decentralized power, so there was no strong executive powers. Another weakness was that the states were not getting along with each other very well, and some of the states were actually on the verge of going to war with each other. Now, some positives, the Revolutionary War was fought under the Articles of Confederation. The Northwest Ordinance is seen as a positive from the Articles of Confederation, and international relations was one of its stronger suits. Now, who were the delegates or the framers at the Constitutional Convention? There were a total of 55 that went. Only 39 of them actually signed the Constitution at the end of the convention. And not all 55 of them were there all the time. Here are some notable ones that were mentioned in the video. George Washington, who ended up becoming the president of the Constitutional Convention. He was the big celebrity of the Constitutional Convention on the heels of leading the Continental Army to victory in the Revolutionary War. Benjamin Franklin of Philadelphia, Alexander Hamilton, Roger Sherman, who was the architect of the Connecticut Compromise, Edmund Randolph, Patrick Henry, and James Madison, considered the father of the Constitution. So those are just some of the delegates or framers. What were some of the key disagreements, arguments about the Constitution during the convention? Remember, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of compromise. So what should the executive branch be like? Should it be a committee or should it be a president? They, of course, settled on a president. And how to elect this president, they settled on the Electoral College, which, of course, is not a direct popular election, but is an indirect election, the Electoral College, which, of course, we still use today. What should the legislative branch look like? Big states thought representation should be according to population size. Small states thought all states should be represented equally. The New Jersey plan was favored by small states. The Virginia plan was favored by bigger states. Now, this was a big point of contention, and Roger Sherman actually came in with what is known as the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise, calling for a bicameral legislature with a Senate and a House of Reps. And at the Constitutional Convention, slavery or the move to abolish slavery was not addressed at all. A big compromise regarding slavery was the Three-Fifths Compromise, where slaves would be considered 3/5 of a person in representation. Another compromise in the Constitution, the international slave trade was ended in 1808. So no longer could enslaved people be bought on the international market. From that point on, enslaved numbers were driven by the birth rate. Another big point of contention was the Bill of Rights. We know that the Federalists did not think that a Bill of Rights was necessary and that all of the states had bills of rights in their state constitution. On the other hand, the Antifederalists would not sign the Constitution unless there was at least a promise of a Bill of Rights. List 4 key facts or takeaways from the convention. The convention was held in secrecy. Remember, it was hot and uncomfortable, but the windows were closed. Many of the delegates were wearing wool and wigs, so you can imagine how uncomfortable that was. The framers intended the government to be complicated to prevent the government from abusing power. So the framers wanted making laws to be very difficult and complicated so they would not happen very easily and they would go through a strict process. The framers believed that concentrated power was dangerous. Therefore, they agreed to checks and balances where the different branches of government can check and balance each other's power. And they also agreed with federalism, so there would be a national level and a state level. While the framers believed in a lot of aspects of democracy, they did not believe that all citizens should vote. They believed that citizen voters should be stakeholders. In this case, it was only white male landowners that the framers thought should have the right to vote. Once again, compromise was key to the creation of the Constitution. Benjamin Franklin called the Constitution a bundle of compromises. And finally, the framers knew the Constitution wasn't perfect, so they included an amendment process. And as we know, there are 4 ways the Constitution can be amended. The Bill of Rights was the first 10 amendments, and now there are a total of 27 amendments. I hope this information helps. Let me know if you have any further questions.